Jim Durkin here. On this week's episode, Matt and I shoot the shit about a bunch of different topics, but mainly discuss the hypocrisy of backcountry hunters and anglers. And what I mean when I say hypocrisy, I'm referring to their mission statement. They essentially say they're dedicated to preserving wild places on public land and maintaining access and integrity of wilderness. There's not one mention in their mission statement of recruiting new hunters. Yet over 50% of what they do as an organization is recruit new hunters. So if you're unfamiliar with our quote-unquote gripe about BHA, you should go back and listen to episode 116 of the Hunt Quietly podcast. In that episode, we dissected a year's worth of BHA chapter updates and illustrate that BHA is predominantly an R3 organization. In all honesty, I thought when we recorded that episode, we were being sincere. And I had hoped that our criticism would reach the powers that be at BHA and would help BHA actually get back to protecting and preserving the backcountry. But after doing the exercise again and reviewing the last 6 months of chapter updates, and then reading the message from Patrick Berry directed at Hunt Quietly, and specifically Matt, I can see our criticisms has fallen on deaf and defiant ears. So instead of recognizing our criticism as legit, BHA has doubled down and gaslighted us with a false narrative, which is we don't want new hunters. In fact, Hunt Quietly is trying to protect new hunters by stopping hunter recruitment. And when I say hunter recruitment is hunter recruitment for the wrong reasons, like to sell memberships and products. Again, anyone listening to this, please go through the BHA chapter updates and decide for yourself if BHA is an R3 organization. And let me remind everyone that hunter numbers are at an all-time high with huntable acres at an all-time low. This is not debatable. And then ask yourself, what does adding more people do to your experience in the places you explore, hunt, and fish? Does it make it better? Does it make it worse?
This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella.
So how you been? What you learning?
Oh man, I'm learning a lot. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm always trying to learn.
Yeah, me too. I'm a lifelong student. Right now at work, I am trying to do something I've never done before, and it's like I guess you'd describe it as trying to fit a statistical model that's a little different than anything I've done. It's for estimating the amount of water in the soil profile, and there's a programming language called MATLAB that I've never used, and there's a program written in MATLAB that fits this kind of model, and I I just got a trial license
Oh,
for
nice.
it, and I've got 30 days to uh, translate this MATLAB code into a different language because after that my trial license will go away. So I'm trying to I'm trying to rewrite the whole program in a language called Fortran um before my my trial license goes away. If I don't do it, it's going to cost the American taxpayers 25. Oh, I just kind of divulged who I work for. I'm not supposed to be doing that, but it's going to cost $2,500 for the software. So
Oh,
yeah, so I'm learning at a rapid pace right now.
yeah. I go to these meetings and sit with a bunch of environmental health and safety professionals, and I realize how much I don't know when I'm around those types of individuals.
Like about human health.
No, just environmental industry,
Oh,
cleanup methods and health and safety and industrial hygiene.
do you know anything about bioremediation?
Like Biologic?
Yeah,
No, I used to do soil remediation and testing but not bio, no.
this guy that was one of my best friends. He he uh he and I went to high school together, and then we moved to Montana together. He's since passed away, but he worked for an environmental consulting firm called Golder and Associates. I guess they're huge. Have you ever heard of
Okay.
them?
It does sound vaguely familiar. Golder,
Golden, I think it was Golden
Golden.
Associates. Yeah. Or no, you had it right. What am I saying? Golder. It's Golder and Associates. And that was his shtick, was bioremediation. So they go to spill sites, and it was mainly cleaning compounds. Like they did a lot of work at Boeing sites where there was a lot of cleaning chemicals that had leached into the soil.
Okay, yeah, that's when you said
And
bio, I'm thinking of like bio waste, like human waste or
oh
biological.
no,
Yeah. Okay.
they were. But what I mean by bioremediation is they're using bacteria
Okay.
to chew up these chemicals,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also laundry mats
Yeah,
would
that's
be
a big one.
yeah, and they would just amend the pH and the nutrient balance in the soil to facilitate bacterial degradation. That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. I did a
The
lot of
paradigm
similar.
started out the paradigm started out with that they would try to introduce bacteria into the system. But then they realized they didn't need to. They just need to make the environment appropriate for bacteria, particular bacteria.
Yeah, that seems like forever ago. I did that kind of work.
Oh, you did do some of it.
Yeah, I went on spill sites in Alaska and traveled all over the place. We did a big cleanup in the native village in Nikolsky where we had to fly out. It's on the Aleutians.
Oh,
And we would take soil samples and sniff soil with the PID photoionization detector and you
was
know
that detects stuff?
it's like volatile like gasoline and diesel. It'll sniff it
Okay.
and tell you what the
You were
concentrate.
huffing gas. You were
Yeah,
huffing gas in the dirt.
but we were so remote that we had to burn the soil to clean it.
Oh, oh, yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to do that. That's the one and only time I did anything like burning the soil, where you just
Uh-huh.
heat it up and basically bake the diesel fuel off of it.
Volatilize it off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Huh.
But that was an interesting trip because I got to do a lot of duck hunting, and if uh I'm sure you've watched the show Jim Shockey.
Yeah.
I say that
Well, yeah,
jokingly,
yeah, I'm aware of it. I don't think I've ever watched a single episode, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
but he ended up buying into that lodge and charges people tens of thousands of dollars to go stay down there. And we stayed down there basically for free to do the work.
Oh,
It,
wow.
yeah.
There's probably a bunch of ducks that you can't get anywhere else.
I shot a bunch, man, and I did not have a camera with me. So
You don't even know what you shot. So I asked, is it like past tense? Are you still hunting? Or is it that it?
I still have a few doe tags to fill, and hopefully I get over
Okay.
this cold and get it back out because
Okay.
it's really cold here, and our rifle season is in. And I sat out for the opener of the rifle season, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I just felt like crap. And
Yeah.
I'm freezing my, what off, and I'm thinking only have a doe tag in my pocket. What am I doing? I could do this anytime.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I'm done hunting. I could shoot some does, but like you, but the larder is full. I shot a antelope, an elk, and a deer. Um, nothing special except the deer's pretty good. I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah, that deer is really good.
Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna do a little duck hunting, but that's about it.
Yeah, we ended up going goose hunting and we got skunked both times, man. I was kind of disappointed.
Oh, that sucks. They're here. They are here right now. Boy, are they here right now.
Are they?
Oh man, yeah. Last few years there've been so many. Well, there's this many every year. Like there's just a period where they are here, and you'll come around. You'll be on a river and you come around the bend in the river. You'll see like 10,000 pick up off the river, and there's so many that some of them are sick. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like a bunch of like thousands of geese pick up. That might be an exaggeration. You might have to go a mile to see 10,000, but every bend you come around, it's only for a short period, but there'll be there'll be a dozen or so that just don't pick up, don't fly. And I'm pretty sure it's avian flu,
Oh, wow.
but it's anytime you got that many around of something, some of them are just bound to be sick, you
Yeah.
know. But I think it is avian flu. They lose their fear of people. You put out decoys and they'll come swim right into your decoys
Oh, man.
and go out to retrieve a duck or a goose and they just kind of look at you. They don't even try to get away. It's sad.
Yeah, that does suck.
Oh man, talk about sad. The wife and I did I tell you we're going to Kenya?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Uh, did I bitch about how much it's costing me?
Well, I don't know if I'd call that bitch, and that was probably warranted. It's not
Did I tell
cheap.
you on the phone or did I tell you on the pod?
You told
I
me on
didn't
the
tell you.
phone. You just told me just
Oh,
on the phone. Yeah.
yeah. 12 grand a piece.
Yeah, that's
And it
not
doesn't
cheap.
have to be it doesn't have to be that much. Like at first I thought it had to be that much because she wants to go on a horseback safari. And she's not allowing me to ride a horse. She's making me ride in the Jeep. So they move the camp every day.
Wait, why
And
is she making you ride it in the Jeep? She doesn't trust you on a horse?
yeah, yeah, which she might have a point there, you know. Uh, and but like every day they move the camp, so she rides her horse from camp to camp, and I ride in the Jeep. That's
Damn.
the plan. Yeah, pretty emasculating, you know. So I thought it had to be that much because of the horses and all that. But then I found another company, a few other companies. It's not nearly that much, but she wants to go with this particular company because one of their guests, she lives on a guest ranch and they own one of their guests just highly recommended this one company. So
Now,
that made it all the more bitter of a pill to swallow when I realized I'm going over there. If it was just that much money, no matter what you did, then it'd be easier to accept.
well,
You know,
can you hunt at all? Do they have any hunting?
I have no interest in hunting over
Yeah.
there. Like, oh, hey, there's a Gems buck. I never seen one of those before. I think I'll kill it. It's just not why I hunt. I think it's kind of weird, man, to hunt in Africa.
I
Each
have
each their
no
own. I'm not opposed to
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
just,
yeah. I don't have any desire to hunt, but a buddy did go there last year and it seemed pretty cool. You know what I mean? I still wouldn't spend that kind of money, but I do have like this hatred for hyenas, and I would love to shoot one out of anger.
oh, because you
They're-
watch them like terrorize shit on the.
yes.
on the Discovery Channel.
Exactly. They'll like terrorize the lone lion that gets separated from its pack, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're just
I
brutal.
can't stand watching those things.
Yeah. Anything with yeah, I don't like watching them because there's just I don't like watching wildlife life documentaries because they always have to show like the mom getting separated from the baby, like the
Mm-hmm.
baby getting killed, and it just this one I was just they recommended one that's uh Planet Earth one about East Africa. The company we're going with. This is you should watch this. They'll give you a sense of what you're going to see. And there's this band of like 8 elephants, and there's this 2 year drought,
Ah.
and the elephants are moving through the landscape, eating little tufts of dried grass. And this one baby elephant starts to get pretty weak, and the mom has to make a decision whether she's going to abandon the baby or stay with it. And she stays with the baby, and the rest of the elephants drift off, and then the baby elephant dies. And I just bawled like a fucking baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are hard to watch, man.
And then in the same documentary, there's a bird called a shoebill. And this, they had these two shoebills, they had two chicks, and one of them was born 3 days before the other one. And the one that's a little older, every time their parents go away to get food, starts pecking at the other one. And then the parents won't even feed the younger one, and it just starves.
Oh, because they realize it's not going to make it.
Well, they're like they said that what's his name? Attenborough. What's his first name? David. David Attenborough. Yeah, the guy that talks like
Oh,
this.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, he said that they rarely raise too young. There's not enough resources.
That's like deep ecology at its finest.
Deep ecology.
Yeah, did you ever hear that? Hear of
Mm-mm,
that?
mm-mm.
It's like it's a book called Deep Ecology, but it's essentially uh you're looking at the greater good. So I guess in that example, it's like the parents are like, well, we're not going to allocate resources to this bird that's suffering and is likely not going to make it. And
Mm-hmm.
they, and that's, I don't know if that's a someone listening to this that studies deep ecology might be like, he's full of shit, doesn't know what he's talking about. But essentially, it's like, maybe we shouldn't send aid to people in hurricanes because
Oh,
that's only facilitating people continually living in areas that shouldn't be inhabited,
uh, gotcha, gotcha.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Uh, I I think I told you I got uninvited to the RMEF banquet in
Yeah, let's talk about that, man.
in Sweetwater County,
So walk me through it.
Wyoming.
So you get this invite.
Yeah, this
Starts.
yeah I got and it's kind of important that I bring this up because in our newsletter I said that I was going to be speaking at this thing, but this guy reached out to me. Uh, he's on the volunteer board and for Sweetwater County RMEF in Wyoming, which is a big chapter. Last year, the governor spoke there. They usually have
Wow.
about 400 people, and he invited me to talk. And then about a month later, I put out that video that was exposed that RMEF, like in effect, funded a hunting lease for a hunting star, Jason Matzinger, because they because they paid him to make a video, a hunting video,
And
which
subsequently
made it,
provided funding for him to lease this property.
yeah, like the lease is a business expense. So here we are, and this is right out where I live. It's it's 80 miles from here. So here, our little group is trying to preserve access. Block management programs in decline, and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is doing what? They're leasing land for hunting celebrities. And I put out a video from that about that on Instagram, and it got back to RMEF, and they demanded that this volunteer not have me come.
So instead of doing the right thing, which would have been reconsidering future projects with hunt celebrities leasing out land,
Yeah,
so
issuing
they,
an apology would be like
yeah,
a better.
like I get it.
Yeah,
Maybe there's some oversight. They didn't think it all the way through. Maybe someone didn't realize it was a conflict of interest.
I totally think that because when I was verifying that this all happened, I talked to their accountant, Shane Kronk, who I've talked to a few times now and is a great guy. He prides himself on being transparent. He
Yeah,
doesn't
didn't you say
bullshit.
he's like looking into this, like it piqued his
Well,
interest?
he said, now that you put it that way, this is something that we should have some internal discussions about. So, yeah, I'd like to think that they don't would stop doing shit like that. I'm sure they've done it more. I mean, they've made a bunch of hunting videos in the last few years. I'm sure they've done more leasing of land for hunting celebrities. This is just the only case of it that I was able to substantiate.
Jeez. So again,
This,
let's instead of recognizing that it might not be in the best interest, they squash the squeaky wheel.
yep, yep.
That makes sense
Th-
to me.
this guy, I wish I could remember his name right now, but I should have looked it up before we started because I knew we were going to talk about this. He's quitting. He's not going to volunteer for them anymore. He's talking about wanting to do some work for HFA Hunters for Access in Wyoming.
Yeah,
So
that's what we need more of. Enough with the
yeah,
bullshit.
yeah, yeah. Uh, then I told you I've been getting. I like this. I like that we've become on social media like a clearinghouse for bizarre and disrespectful social media posts. Like people send us stuff when it's over the top.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I've been keeping a list. I thought I would tell you about a few of them. A couple weeks ago, I got this video of it's a full body mount of a deer, and it's on wheels, and there's a keg on the cart, and then there's a tap coming out of the deer's anus.
Oh, Jesus.
And then so that was one thing I saw that just like,
That's good for public relations with the
yeah,
non-hunting crowd.
yeah. Uh, then I saw somebody sent me a video with like this obnoxious, really loud music, and this guy sledding down a hill on a deer, on a dead deer. Uh, then I another somebody else sent me this one of this guy's hounds literally ripping a live deer to pieces.
Hounds
Yeah, it must
is,
they must have been like a state where you can hunt deer with hounds.
but I wonder if that's even legal to uh for the hounds to kill the deer.
Uh, I don't know. But yeah, his his impulse was to not to end the suffering, but to film it. It was incredibly disturbing.
That sounds
Then I
disgusting.
saw, then somebody sent me, this is all within the last month or so, this Native American woman up in Alaska. She uh, rolls up to this wounded caribou on her four wheeler, and she gets off and she's kind of messing around, like taking her time, like fiddling with this, fiddling with that. The caribou's laying down, head up. She's like messing around, and then eventually she gets out a knife and goes over and stabs it in the back of the head, or in like where the head and the neck come together. It's
What?
like, why in the world do we need to do the American people need to see that?
And why don't these platforms start self-policing and getting rid of this crap?
Well, I mean, you mean like Instagram?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, that has to violate some policy, right? If it
I
doesn't
don't know.
meet,
I don't even I don't know that I would want them to. Like I just think that if hunters didn't tolerate it,
yeah, well,
then
and no one should tolerate
if
it.
there wasn't if there wasn't an audience for it, then it would go away, you know? But I don't know. We just don't sufficiently police stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like there's just too many people out there that like it. I saw this video a while back of Josh Bomar. Um, there's this little group of monkeys running around eating fruit on the ground, and one of them stands up, and it's not, he like range finds it. It's 90 yards. Okay, 90 yards. He pulls back and just drills this monkey right in the heart. And then they like edited the video so the monkey's ghost comes out of it, and it tips over. Like the whole video is real, except he just made this little ghost come out of it. And he's like, "Oh man, that was violent. Oh, that was violent." And I look at the comments, and sure, there's plenty of people bashing him, but there's also people clapping their hands for him.
It's so disturbing on so many different levels.
Now, some of that is like the echo chamber thing, where he's amassed a group of people that are open to stuff like that. So there's probably fewer people that think that's cool than you would think by looking at the comments there, because you're looking
Yeah,
at the
right.
comments by his audience.
Yeah, they're following
Yeah.
him, right?
Yeah,
You're just
yeah,
getting the fray of his supporters that are like, ah, that's kind of douchey and not cool.
yeah. But it's just one thing that's terribly disappointing to me is that none of the leadership in hunting, the big people with the big platforms, ever say a thing about
Nope.
it.
Nope.
Like the I don't know, everything is about money. If they say anything negative, then there's going to be some fraction of people that don't like them saying negative things about Josh Bomar.
It's almost
or
like the whole support of Trump. Obviously, like people were able to voice their opinions and wear mega hats and all this stuff, but like now it's like popular to do that. You need one person to step up and say, Josh, this is not cool. Stop posting shit like this. And then more people will jump on it.
right, right. If somebody with a big platform
Yeah.
uh, went public and said, "Man, our the future of hunting rests with people being okay with it, with the society being okay with it, and this is just not helping. But they won't do it. They
Nope.
won't do it.
Not anytime soon, at least.
Yeah, yeah. So think about that, folks, when you're thinking about how badass and brave your hunting celebrity heroes are.
Right.
They won't fucking say a thing about shit like that. Is and and behind the scenes they will. I bet I've been around them. I've been around a lot of these guys. They'll say shit about like they'll disparage that kind of behavior when the camera's off. So, you know. Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to talk about that recently is uh, there's this article that was written in 2022 by Tony Peterson. He works for Meat Eater, and we're gonna have to title. I don't know. This might be a good title for this episode, like hypocrisy or something like that. There's a lot of we're gonna discuss. We're talking a lot. We've talked about a little bit of hypocrisy, and we're going to talk about more, but in this episode. But he says, so this is Tony Peterson, who writes and does hunting TV for Meat Eater. In 2022, in an article entitled, "Are the Good Old Days of Whitetail Hunting Over?" Quote, "There's no denying the increase in readily available content that focuses very specifically on public land hunting and provides more than enough clues and state naming to provide all that's required to hunt those areas has had a big time impact on the quality of the public land experience."
He knows.
Yeah, it's just funny. I put this on Instagram, but then he just put out his latest hunting video on YouTube. Whitetail hunting the Great Plains of North Dakota with Tony Peterson.
So he did everything he said was detrimental
Oh,
to
and he's written 2 articles like since then too. One of them like the 3 most underrated states for whitetail hunting. I remember as one of them. It's
Well,
just like, how can you say that? How can you say that there's no question, there's no denying that state naming and providing clues has has reduced the quality of hunting, and then go on to continue to do it?
well, that's what
It's just
happens
like,
when somebody hands you a piece of paper and says, "This is the project I need you to work on. Go and do it."
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know if that's the case. If somebody hands him a piece of paper and says, "Go hunt deer in South Dakota. We're going to put this together," and he just does, I don't know, but that could be one explanation on why the two thought processes. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but I know we talked about it on the phone where Mark Kenyon on his podcast, those two were together, and Mark Kenyon wanted to do like habitat work on public land, and
When you
then
say they're together, you're saying they're podcasting together.
yeah, they're podcasting together, Mark and Tony. And Mark had this idea. He wanted to do an episode where they got together and went to some piece of public land and planted trees and habitat improvement, and then went back there a year later and shot a deer for an episode. And Tony was like, "You can never do that. You'll blow that place up."
Oh, why would they have to say the place? Why can't they just go plant some trees somewhere without saying where it is?
I guess they could be ambiguous and still accomplish the same thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, well,
The whole
in
point
any
is they
case,
know.
yeah, they know that they could they can They have a major impact on how many people on how many people hunt particular places when the word gets out. Well,
Yeah.
like it did, Tony's just admitting it right here. Yeah, what I do for a living really shits up hunting, and I'm going to do a bunch more of it. It's it's so comical, man. It's so comical to me. Like it's just hard to take these people seriously. I mean, just don't write shit like that at the please, you know,
Right.
like it because it just it'd be so much easier to take if I could just have it in my head that they don't know that they're screwing up hunting. It's just harder to take when they like explicitly admit it and then continue to go do it on to do more of it. You
Yeah.
know?
That's because the almighty dollar, dude.
Yeah, yeah. What else do I got here? Oh, this is kind of interesting. I got this from the mailbag. Sorry, folks, we're just kind of jumping all around here. We haven't done a podcast in a while, so I just wrote down some things that have cropped up over the last couple months uh, that I thought were good. But we're gonna, after we get done with this, we're gonna go into a little longer topic. We're gonna give an update on what BHA has been up to, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So I got this email from a guy, Josiah. Um, is it Josiah? Is that how you say it? Josiah.
Yeah, Josiah. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't want me to say his name, but man, and I kind of almost did because there's not many people named that. But
That's funny. My son has two friends, both Josiahs. He has more than two friends, but he has two of his friends are named Josiah.
yeah, well, this is one of them. I'm not gonna say what state he lives in because that'll really narrow it down with a name that on I guess not uncommon, but I thought it was. So he said, Josiah writes, I have a sister who is a wannabe influencer and is flat out lying about her life online, especially when it comes to hunting, fitness, and anything outdoors. One Christmas, I brought pickled quail eggs to share, and she did not like them. That night, she posted on social media a photo of the jar and proclaimed how delicious they were. I have also caught her fake running, dressed in running gear, trying to get the right video angle so she can post the video of her quote unquote running. I went on an East Coast waterfowl hunt recently, and our guide had been featured on several hunting shows. During the hunt, he vented about how certain guides and hunters burn spots, make other hunters look bad, and lie on social media, parenthetically, such as posting fake photos to make them look good. I grew up on a game farm where we raised game birds. I remember a TV host buying Bob White quail from us and watching the TV show that he made with them. Couldn't tell you the name. He made himself out to be way out in the boonies hunting wild birds. Those, quote, wild birds, unquote, I fed out of my hand since they were chicks. Again, thanks for saying what the silent majority is thinking. If more people listen to your message, it could point hunters in the right direction. Do not give up this fight. Josiah.
Nice.
All right. So this is a smorgasbord of topics, but now we're going to talk a little bit about BHA. BHA is an organization we talk about more than we should because they are they are small compared to a lot of the other hunting nonprofits. I looked today; their budget last year was it was under $6 million. It was 5 point some, 5.4
And
million.
that's down, right? That's down.
Yeah, by comparison, National Wild Turkey Federation and Pheasants Forever are about $55 million a year outfits.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, if you're just listening, starting to listen to you, one of the things that the Hunt Quietly group movement, whatever you want to call it, uh, opposes is hunter recruitment. So
And I
all
think,
these old,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think if people want to go back and listen to the episode we recorded for Hunt Quietly in April, I think that would be a good
April
episode.
2024.
Yes, where
I don't have the episode number, but
we talk about what the organization is doing with their time and effort, and we categorize it based on categories of our R3 trash cleanup, conservation work, conservation advocacy, hunting advocacy, and access.
right.
And
And we
so
went through four. They have this Backcountry Journal which comes out quarterly, and then in that publication, every issue has a chapter news and updates where all the chapters, the state and provincial chapters, can write in and say what they've been up to. And I guess the logic is I can't think of any better way to figure out what they do as an organization than looking at what they say in their own words, right, Jim?
absolutely, it's not you or I. It's in their own words, and it's each chapter, each quarter.
So anyway, we looked at a year's worth and we categorized all their activities, like Jim just was saying. R3, trash cleanup, conservation work, conservation advocacy. So conservation work would be like on the ground sorts of stuff, and advocacy would be like calling your legislator and getting them to vote for a wildlife management area or something like that. Hunting advocacy, so working to protect hunting rights and access. And I think the title of the episode is something along the lines of BHA is predominantly an R3 organization.
It is episode 116, and it's just titled Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Um, so anyway, Jim looked at a couple more
Yeah,
issues.
we, well, you in particular, well, I guess you were mentioned in their fall 2024 issue. So you should be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, so yeah, let me give the backstory on that. So the CEO of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is Patrick Barry, and he became aware of like he became aware of our podcast and things we've been saying about R3 and BHA and how much R3 they do. And because I emailed him and asked him to come on the podcast, and this led to a email exchange, and then we talked on the phone, and I was trying to get him on. He was reticent about that. He he ultimately he never really declined, but he just kind of stopped answering my emails and uh, and then despite the fact that we had this really cordial exchange, he then wrote, "What you have it there, Jim? What do you?"
Yeah.
This was in the summer or fall edition.
This is in the fall of 2024.
Okay.
And the title of it's the president's message. It's building a community, okay? Uh in the paragraph where he talks about us, he says, "There's a little known podcast host whose favorite pastime is to publicly bludgeon individuals and organizations who take on the selfless and laudable role of mentors to wide-eyed novice hunters eager to learn. To me,
Okay, so oh God, go ahead. It's just like there's a lie right there.
Oh,
It's
big
not my
time.
favorite. It's not my favorite pastime. My favorite pastime is hunting. So
To me, slamming the door to opportunity behind you by shaming volunteers dedicated to inspiring the next generation of outdoor enthusiasts is like kicking a puppy across the room. It also has lasting consequences. Trying to make the tent as tiny as possible while the percentage of non-hunters skyrockets into the stratosphere is a recipe for irrelevance and bad policy outcomes.
lot to unpack there. So the last bit where he says what he's saying is that hunters as a percentage of the population are have gone down. At least he's got that in his head. And he's only got that in his head because I got it in his head. He if it wasn't for me, he would have said hunters are in decline. Um, but I was able to convince him that's not the case. So now he's resorting to hunters as a percentage of the population are in decline.
Well, because
Hunters
that
divided because the population has grown.
well, yeah, that fits his narrative.
Um, and I don't understand as a PhD research ecologist, I don't understand how dividing by the number of people is at all useful. How many people aren't hunting has no impact on what the resource can handle. As a
And
matter of fact, as a matter of fact, it does have an impact. The more people there are that aren't hunting, the less hunters the earth can support because those people need houses.
right, right. It all comes down to huntable acres,
Right.
and it's in rapid decline. Just look around you. In any
Huntable acres are in decline, and hunters per huntable acre are in on the increase.
yeah,
Right. And instead of that being the salient metric, people like to say that, oh, we need to we need to increase the number of hunters because they're going down as a percentage of the entire population. Which,
I would just like to remind him that he's the CEO of an organization that prides itself on the value of solitude in the backcountry as their
yeah,
number one mission.
I have a couple of quotes about that if you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
please read them because that
Yeah,
is
so this is from the BHA website. Wilderness hunting and fishing deliver a sense of freedom, challenge, and solitude that is increasingly trampled on by the twin pressures of a growing population and increasing technology. So, right there, they admit that solitude is of value. But then I don't see how you have it that way and then try to reduce it. You say solitude is a great thing and then actively work to reduce solitude. Here's another one. North America's public lands and waters are the lifeblood of backcountry hunters and anglers. These are the cherished wild places that restore our spirits and provide the solace of solitude. Yeah, and then we're getting a little out of order here because we haven't revealed your stats.
yeah.
But
Well, he's just way
in the first analysis, we found that well over 50% of what they do is directed towards reducing solitude.
right. He's way off base with that statement, and let's go into the stats because the stats are from the fall issue of this year, 2024, and the summer issue of this year. and we went through everything, and they are predominantly an R3 organization. And this is not my opinion. This is based on what activities they are doing in each chapter across the United States. The numbers are slightly better for the last two. Well, I guess they're right in the same percentage actually. 54% of the work they did in the fall was R3.
Based on the number of projects.
Yep, based on the number of projects. Trash cleanup accounted for 5%. Conservation work accounted for almost 20%. Conservation advocacy accounted for almost 9%. Same with hunting advocacy. And then access accounted for almost 3.5%.
3.5%. And on their website, BHA writes, access has emerged as a priority issue for North American hunters and anglers, and a lack of access is cited by sportsmen and women as the number one reason why we stop pursuing our passions.
Yep.
There's nothing on the website, ladies and gentlemen, about R3, about the need for R3. Nothing.
The
Uh,
summer
the
issue.
stats, it's okay, yeah. So Jim just gave the fall issue. This is the summer issue.
So this is the summer stats again. 55%, almost 56% R3. 6.3% for trash cleanup. 12% for conservation work. 10%, 10.5% for both conservation advocacy and hunting advocacy, and 4.2% for access.
Yeah. So I guess the take home there is no real change.
No real change, right? And
Yeah.
it's like if you want to be an advocacy group for R3 and teaching people how to hunt and bringing people in, then so be it. Just you can't have it both ways. You can't pretend to be a group that wants to protect backcountry and then invite more people into it as your sole purpose.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you could, I, I, a good first step would be just to remove the bits about solitude from their website.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'd rather that they get back to working on the things that they claim to care about, you know, uh, and keep the bit about solitude on their website. But if they're just going to continue to, I mean, a big part of this is the lost opportunity, right? I mean, all that effort that they're using towards recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters could be redirected towards the things they purport to care about.
That's absolutely the case. But Matt, it's almost like they're drawing a line in the sand because they're recognizing what we're trying to point out. And they're saying, we're going to do it even more. I mean, when I went through the chapters, right? And I'm reading each chapter and what they're doing for that particular quarter. And I come to Wisconsin, right?
Uh-huh.
Wisconsin. This is in the summer of 2024. The Wisconsin chapter responded to recent criticisms of the R3 movement by
Oh,
hosting,
wow.
yeah, by hosting not just one, but two Learn to Hunt turkey events in April, inspiring 14 new public lands and conservation advocates.
You have no idea. You have no idea if those people are going to become advocates.
So I would love for the people that hosted this R3 that taught them how to become turkey callers. Why don't you release where you turkey hunt?
Yeah. Yeah. right.
and show me where to go turkey hunting in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
If you're here in this Wisconsin BHA, if you want to send us those coordinates, we'll gladly put them on our Instagram.
I would love for somebody to turn over where they turkey hunt if they're so worried about, increasing the number of turkey hunters out there.
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of it's kind of sad about this like devil may care, we'll show you bit is, you know, it's not it's what makes R3 so rude is like everybody that's hunted, spent any amount of time hunting, knows what a major negative impact having other people around you has on the experience and the chances of success. I mean, it's not a minor thing. It's like it could ruin an outing,
It,
right?
in
It's
every survey that I looked at for that article I was working on, it's the number one thing. What's the biggest detriment to hunting? Finding a place and finding a place that's not overcrowded. I mean, those are the top two things. Finding a place to hunt and finding a place that's not crowded. They're always one and two.
yeah, yep, yeah, and like it's hunting. I just think of R3 is extremely rude. Like their membership is, I don't know how many members BHA has, but I think it's less than 1% of less than 1% of hunters in America belong to BHA. And BHA goes, and everything we're saying right now could be directed at all these orgs to lesser and greater extents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, NWTF probably could make a stronger case with them that they're predominantly R3. Pheasants forever, ducks unlimited, trout unlimited, Army F, they all have recruitment efforts. But like, and was so I guess I say this for all of them. If you okay, all of those organizations still, if you the number of hunters that belong to any one of those organizations are a minority of hunters in this country. Big time minority.
Yeah.
And they go, and those organizations go, well, we don't care what you think. We don't care what you think the threats to the future of hunting are. We think the threats are not enough people. So we're gonna crowd we're gonna endeavor to crowd you out because that's just and when I was this is what led me to quit being on the board of Montana BHAs. I wanted them to ask the question to their membership: Do
Yeah,
you
I
want to
remember you
see
saying
more?
that.
Do you want to see more people when you're out hunting? And they would not even ask the question, which makes it so freaking rude.
Well, and it's likely that they're focusing their attention on new hunters and anglers because those are the folks that are eager to help, to get involved and join. You know what I mean? Like of the percentage of people on BHA, how many are have hunted less than a decade? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, they like the clubby vibe of it,
Yeah,
you know.
and if you're a new hunter, what better way to get in the club?
Yeah,
And I
right.
can't I can't blame them. I can't blame the people for doing that. However, again, I will revert back to this quote. If you don't find it on your own, maybe you shouldn't find it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then so there's and then again, it's just one of the things that's really sad about it is that there are major threats to hunting. And instead of working on those, working on the major challenges that face us as a community going forward, they're focused on mentorship programs and shoots
And
and
they're
pint nights and
uh, the pint nights, I get,
Well, they're
but
fundraisers. They got to do some fundraising.
yeah, yeah. But the other thing too that stuck out when I went through the last two quarters are this full draw film festival
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. So yeah,
that was in multiple states, like five or six states.
T- do you know the history of that?
I do just from talking with you, but I previously didn't. So can you go over that again?
Well, I don't know it very well myself. I've never been to a full draw film festival. Uh, but I think it went on. I think that they had these film festivals for a number of years, and then maybe it petered out, and then it came back. And yeah, it's what you might think it is. People make bow hunting videos, and then they go around and show them at various venues.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like a theater, and then they have like live chat with I'm assuming the people who made the videos.
yeah, uh, interestingly enough, Jason Matzinger, who is the guy that our MEF paid for his hunting lease, uh, he entered a goat hunt in the full draw film festival one time, and he he shot the mountain goat with a rifle and pretended he shot it with a bow and entered it into the full draw. The full draw, the archery full draw film festival.
Oh man.
There's so much bullshit in hunting media. It's just great when you when you sniff out a turd, you know, because they're it's hard to sniff them out because you don't know. How do you know? You know.
Well, Matt, the last time I felt like we were fair and we were honest in our criticisms. And here,
I went a little gentle just because I thought you'd be more comfortable if I
well,
did. I don't want to, but no, this is alarming to me
it's
that
very
there's no
alarming.
the the hunting celebrities obviously don't care about hunt quality for the hunting community. The hunting industry does not care about hunt quality. Uh, and we can't even rely on the hunt hunting nonprofits to give a shit about hunt quality.
I just felt like the way we presented the first episode, I felt like it was going to I was hoping it was going to get the ear of the people at BHA and have them reevaluate the things that they're doing, the chapters and how they function. And now, after seeing Patrick's essay, uh, drawing a line in the sand, calling us um, a little known podcast, bludgeoning the volunteers, and then seeing something like Wisconsin doing the well, you think you're going to tell us not to do R3? Okay, we're going to do more R3.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you see these percentages where they're over 55% R3. So nothing has changed in the last two quarters since we got their ear.
No, well, one thing has happened. One thing I guess one thing is happening, and that's their budget is in decline.
Well,
It's like okay, one thing I think for what there's one component here is it is an expectation of the hunting industry that they recruit hunters.
yeah.
Like, okay, I have, I've already said this stuff on the podcast, but in case you haven't heard this before, I've heard quotes from people that work for BHA, like our corporate sponsors wouldn't like it very much if we backed off of R3. Another quote I heard is, "We can't back off R3, or we can't quit R3 because we fundraise off of it." Uh, there was a a talk at a rendezvous that a friend of mine was at a BHA rendezvous, where it's a guy's talking about the college clubs and how important it is to get the kids that come to the college clubs meeting, get their email addresses, because having a large email list of young hunters is gold to the hunting industry. So it, the re, so so it, it's like, maybe they do want to get, maybe if they could be economically viable without the R3, maybe they would step away from it. But I think one reason why they don't is because that's how they make their
They need
money.
it, right? And
They're like, they are a form of these nonprofits are a form of advertising for the hunting industry. They're,
and that's
you
why
know,
I'm just like, what, you know, it's not that I'm giving up hope, but it's just like, just let's just call for what it is. They're an R3 organization.
yeah,
I mean, they are.
yeah,
There's no denying it.
no doubt about it.
And
Yeah.
even, even some of these projects they're working on. So for example, when I was going through these chapter updates, one one of their entries in particular caught my attention. It was in the state of Iowa, and they auctioned off a governor's deer tag. Now, if anybody's listening out there that's not familiar with Iowa, their whitetail deer tags take about 6 bonus points to draw a tag. So you're waiting a significant amount of time to draw a tag. So these tags are very coveted. And so a couple things popped into my head. Why is a state with limited, there's like 2% of Iowa, 2% of public land. Let me say that
Iowa's
again.
2% public land.
Iowa consists of 2% public land. Yes. So I'm thinking, why is BHA getting a governor's tag from the state of Iowa? And they made $30,000 off of it. And
So somebody bid $30,000. The winning
yes,
bid was $30,000 for this deer tag,
yes.
and the state of Iowa, before the raffle, like,
Well, no,
had
it's an auction.
auction. Okay, the rules of the auction were, whatever we raise off this, we're going to
It's
give
highest
half of
bidder.
it to, right, but the half of the proceeds are going to go to BHA.
Yes. That was my question though. Why would an organization that's committed to equal access for everybody have an auction and not a raffle?
Oh, okay, well, you're talking about Iowa Fish and Game being committed to equal access for everybody?
No, BHA. BHA was
Yeah,
responsible for the tag. So maybe I'm presumptuous in pointing the finger at BHA, but to me, if you auction it off, it's going to the highest bidder. If you do a raffle, it's going to somebody randomly.
right. They probably weren't given that choice, though. It's a governor's tag. So it was probably don't you think it was Iowa Fish and Game, or whatever they're called up BHA and said, "Hey, we're going to give you guys half the proceeds."
You're probably right. I don't know, but that would be one thing that if if I was involved in the organization, I would be aware of that and say that this was a requirement from the state of Iowa, not us. Otherwise, it would have been an auction or not. It would have been a raffle.
Right, right. Uh, okay, gotcha. Uh, yeah. I mean, if it was up to me, there would never be an auction tag anywhere. in the U.S. They'd all be raffles, like
Yeah.
Utah, everywhere, you know. Um, so, and I would imagine what was in it for Iowa Fish and Game. I wish I knew what they were freaking called. I sound like an idiot, but
It's
I'm sure
the
what's
it's the Iowa DNR.
okay. I'm sure what was in it for Department of Natural Resources there in Iowa's. They knew that BHA would pump it out through their platforms, being like, "Hey, make sure you bid on the governor's tag because we get half the proceeds, right?"
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that that's what DNR got out of it was publicity. But it is funny that B- BHA would take that money because it goes against their own policy statements.
Yeah.
So I I was I looked at their policy statements recently. I read through all of them, and they have one that they issued in 2022 on hunting license allocation. This is their hunting license allocation policy statement. BHA off the website. You can read it yourself. You can access all the information that we're presenting tonight, folks, for yourself, by the way, easily. Here it is. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers upholds the North American model of wildlife conservation, which states that, quote, government allocates access to wildlife without regard for wealth, prestige, or land ownership, and that wild game hunting opportunity must be allocated in a fair and equitable manner. We urge wildlife management agencies, such as Iowa DNR, to avoid policies and regulations that establish transactional circumstances that monetize wild game hunting opportunity and compromise equity in access to public trust resources.
Except for when
If,
they're getting $15,000 from.
except for they're going to get $15,000 from it. Yeah,
That
this is the I'm definitely gonna title this episode hypocrisy.
and and the irony of it all is the person that won that tag or bought that tag, there is about a 0% chance it was used on public land.
Oh yeah, yeah,
0% chance.
yeah. I
But my thoughts are when I saw that, so they're getting 15,000, and I'm thinking, well, man, Iowa should really show some progress in what they're doing for access, considering it only consists of 2% of public land. So I went back and looked at what they did the last quarter or the last couple quarters. And they had a Father's Day bluegill bash. This is the Iowa chapter.
okay,
They had a gear swap. They had a booth at the Iowa Deer Classic. They attended the BHA Rendezvous. They had a get to know BHA event. They had a pre event for the live meat eater event. They had a learn to fly fish. They built new ponds, no details. And then going back a full year, they had a booth at the Deer Classic. And then they had two events that piqued my interest. They had an Otter Creek easement purchase where, we can get into how they worded this, but they were part of the purchase of, according to them, they were part of 2.57-mile easement. And then they had three other land acquisitions totaling 478 acres.
that last shit sounds great.
Okay. But then, okay, so as you dig down deeper, the way they phrase it is, you know, I don't know. It's kind of misleading. It's kind of misleading. It's really taking their involvement and making it look a lot more than it actually is.
Which is a reoccurring theme with all these hunting nonprofits I've noticed. But
Yeah, so this Otter Creek project, uh the way they wrote it up, the chapter raised and donated funds towards the Iowa DNR purchase of a permanent easement for public fishing along 2.57 miles of Otter Creek in Fayette County. Okay. So
okay,
that 2.57 is not accurate. It was only 1.21. 2.57 is the total length of the easement. So there was an existing easement and they added to it. Okay.
okay,
So that was a stretch. Okay. They made it look bigger than it actually was.
right,
The cost of the project was the total cost of that easement of that 1.21 miles was
uh huh,
$104,000.
okay,
BHA submitted $1,500 or 1.4% of the project.
okay, yeah,
Now,
pretty underwhelming.
pretty
So yeah,
underwhelming.
they've done okay. So with that, you could say they've done nothing sub substantive for access because that project would have happened without their contribution.
I would have to agree
Like
with
at
you.
the end of the day, if you're like from a consequentialist perspective, like there's no way that that wouldn't have happened if BHA didn't exist.
Yeah, it's the
It would
project
have
would have
happened anyway.
happened. It would have happened anyway. I mean, there it's and I don't want to downplay 1,500. They
Yeah,
donated and right,
yeah, it's
it
great.
is what it is.
Yeah,
But if you read this, it's like they're wearing it as a patch on their arm, and it's pretty minuscule in comparison to the cost of the project.
yeah, yeah.
The same thing with these other land acquisitions. This Rich Smith, I forget what the actual name of it is. Rich Smith Conservation Area. The way that this reads, the chapter contributed funds and solicited donations for 3 land acquisitions in late 2022 and 2023. The increases in public land hunting and fishing access totaled 478 acres. Well, they failed to mention that one of them was this Rich Smith uh, donation. And this project, I don't know what the cost of it. It was 103 acres. I don't know what the total cost was,
Uh-huh.
but
One of the projects was 103 acres and the other one was 300 and something.
well, there were 2 separate ones. So divided those up. I forget how they actually divide up.
That doesn't matter. There's 2 projects.
But essentially, like again, they had matching funds of their chapter members up to $1,000.
Okay, so the most they put into that one was a thousand
A
bucks.
thousand bucks. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. What do you think that what did you think it cost all total?
Well, part of the donation was $100,000, and that came from local businesses, the family itself. And this, by the way, anybody listening, this Rich and Sue Smith, they seem like great people. This Rich was an advocate for public land hunting and habitat work. So this dude should get a lot of credit. He
Oh
seemed like
man.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
seemed like a really genuine person that we need more of. And he passed away, and so they wanted to carry on his legacy and donated this property. And this is how sparse public land is in Iowa. This 104 acres, increased the public land in this county 20%.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That is crazy.
right.
Man. So already even with that right now, we already know that BHA was one less than 1%. of the purchase.
Yeah, because local businesses and then the family discounted the property when they sold it as part of their donation. And then the Ida County Board of Supervisors contributed $100,000.
Okay.
So, assuming that it was more than $100,000, they only BHA only submitted 1,000. So again,
Right.
there's like a theme here. I don't want to downplay the $1,000, but it's not significant to the purchase of the
No.
property.
Again, the project would have obviously happened anyway.
So it's just little things like that when you start digging in deep. It's like, man, you got to read these updates and these accomplishments with a grain of salt
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because it's just not entirely painting a picture that's accurate, in my
Yeah.
opinion, right?
Yeah. What I heard was a litany of R3 activities and then two or three excess activities where they made very minor financial contributions.
Yeah, and am I being too hard on them? Or
No, I
because
don't. I mean, people can make their own mind up if that's the balance that they think BHA should have. I mean, obviously we have our perspective. I think it's a terrible balance, but people can that people were giving people the facts. If that's they can go look at they can verify all this themselves easily. So if that's what
I,
they want, and if that's what they want in a conservation a quote unquote conservation organization is a shit pile of R3 and a few bucks kicked out to access, then there you go. Oh, and
uh,
the pond building, I don't know what the pond building was.
yeah, they didn't say. And
We should have reached out. Did you reach out and ask them?
I reached out because the one property, this Rich Smith property, originally listed it as it wasn't open to hunting, but that wasn't accurate. It is open
Okay,
to hunting. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, we should have got a little more detail on the ponds, I guess.
But if you were buying a pair of shoes, let's say you were buying a pair of Air Jordans and you were like, "Hey Jim, man, they're $100 and I have $99. Can you give me $1 for this so I could buy the shoes?" I would hardly walk out of there saying, "Hey, I bought Matt's shoes for him."
Yeah, well, they didn't say that. Let's keep, they said that's not that
Or
the analogy should be like, I helped Matt buy his
yeah,
shoes.
yes. I wouldn't say even at that. I wouldn't say I helped Matt buy his shoes if I only gave you $1.
Right, right. Yeah.
Anyway, and that's just
We're gonna get
Iowa.
hammered for this. We'll get hammered for this, We're gonna hear like uh every little bit counts, stuff like that.
And that's
But
accurate. Absolutely, that's accurate. To be fully honest, I don't know what the answer is.
yeah. Oh, hey man, if I was the CEO of BHA, um, I would figure out a way to do away with R3. I and it would be freaking probably tougher than could imagine because a lot of their contributions from the hunting industry uh, come with R3 strings attached. You know, they want BHA bringing in new hunters because new hunters don't have any gear, so it's like a major sale opportunity for the hunting industry. But there's got to be a way. Well, if there's not a way to have a conservation organization that doesn't do R3, then what does that tell you? I don't know.
Well, I
It's just
mean,
like it shows you like it's just money drives the whole thing. If it's impossible to have a hunting nonprofit without R3, it just shows you that money is like I don't know. there's, like I say, the vast majority of Americans don't belong to any of these organizations. So I would just be trying to figure out a way to energize the existing hunting community, build my membership out of the existing hunting community in some
And
way.
yeah, and I'm talking about like I don't know what the answer is for even like okay, you worked on this project, you donated $1,000 to land acquisition. I don't even know like I'm torn on how you present that without exaggerating.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Because obviously somebody at BHA in Iowa really cared about these projects, even though it was only 1,500 for one project and 1,000 for another. Somebody worked really hard on it, and wants it to be known that BHA supported this. I get that, but I'm just saying, like, what is the balance of getting it out there without overselling it? And I think
yeah, yeah.
and I don't have the answers, but I know the way they're
That's what you meant. Okay, so
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was misunderstanding you, but
No,
like,
I'm not
here's,
saying
go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not saying like keep it secret, but just don't oversell it, you know?
My take on all this is, first, it is incredibly important that these organizations are entirely transparent and accurate in describing their accomplishments, their deliverables.
Right.
Okay. So I think it should be, here's the total cost of the project. Here's what we gave.
Yeah. But that doesn't sound as good.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, we're about to do a whole bunch of outreach on NWTF, folks. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't want to know if you wanted to talk about that, but it's
I
like
don't,
this.
not at all. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it at all, but just to say that we have a lot of, we've done a ton of research on that organization, and the pattern that emerges is that they all are vague um, about their deliverables, and I don't like, if you, I just don't understand how it got to be that way. I mean, what is more important when you're deciding if you want to support an organization or not than knowing very specifically what they've accomplished?
Absolutely.
And you can't determine it. You can't determine it for, I mean, you could turn it, okay, with, in some cases you can determine it for individual projects, but you can't determine it for the for the entire organization. Like RMEF, like, finances some land acquisition, then it's pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
Or some easement, they funded that or whatever. But then there's just, for every project like that, there's 20 where you can't determine what the organization's role was, and it's like that for all of them.
And even when they supported the funding, when you dig down deep, it might not be as much as you thought it
It
was.
might be trivial, like what we're
Y-
talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an awesome, like a great reform for these organizations, is if there was just like a standard way this shit was reported. Like, there was 1,000. This project took 1,000 man hours, and BHA or NWTF or whatever, they their contribution was 100 man hours or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to downplay the great people from Iowa that are helping on these projects, but
No, and it's like these people we're talking about are volunteers, so they don't have they're not they don't have a vested interest in making BHA look better than they are.
yeah.
Unlike the people that have vested interest in making these organizations look more effective than they are the people that work for them and draw a salary.
Yeah.
So, I wish these Iowa folks would figure out a way to work more on conservation, particularly in their state access, as opposed to R3. I can't imagine how crowded public land hunting must be in Iowa
I can't even
with that
fathom.
little public land, you know?
Yeah. Well, and they just got $15,000 from this auction. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
7,000 though, 7,500. Because I know from my involvement with BHA that half of that will go to national. Half of it will go to national BHA. So
so they have $7,000 and they can contribute $1,000 to 7 projects.
there you go. There you go. And then we'll bash on them for it. All right. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's enough for one episode. Did we do all right?
Oh, that was great. Yeah, that
Okay.
was great. And
Okay.
again, I will end this episode like we did the last episode. If there's anybody from BHA that wants to come on and discuss the projects, the boots on the ground, the stuff that we're missing or the stuff that's not included in these journals, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. And then we can criticize the people creating these journals for not highlighting that more,
Yeah.
because that is one of the criticisms that we got back. Oh, there's so much stuff that we do that you don't know about. Well, why don't I know about it?
Yeah. 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 And why would you leave the good stuff out of your reporting? Like
Yeah,
it seems like you'd leave the R3 out of your reporting and put in the good stuff if there's all this
exactly.
good stuff.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Well, hunting season's winding down. I hope to do a little more podcasting with you now, Jim.
yeah,
A lot more
definitely.
podcasting with you. We've got a lot of topics that are on the docket coming
Yeah,
up. So
definitely. And this will be on both avenues, right? So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
it'll be out there, and we'll have more episodes to come.
All right. Have a good night, my friend.
All right,
Talk
you
to you
too,
soon.
buddy. I'll talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.